Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are Propelled by Plants.
Today we bring to you episode 401, Improving Brain Health with Kate Kunkel.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Kate Kunkel all about improving and maintaining good brain health and dementia. She's embarked on this journey after her mom's illness, and now she's on a mission to help with brain health and dementia prevention. We talk about everything from hips to waist ratio, drugs, food, toxins, sleep, mindfulness, music. There's so much we cover, and there's something for everyone to learn in this and apply, even if you think you know everything already. So please listen carefully and share away.
Kate is embarking on what she considers the most important mission of her life, to make dementia a rare disease and to empower people to take control of their own health and future. As a vegan nutritionist, mindfulness practitioner, and sound therapist, Kate helps people improve their health, sharpen their minds, and save their brains from the devastation of cognitive decline. In her workshops, through coaching, and in her latest book, Don't Let the Memories Fade, Kate encourages people to take control of their health because she says it's never too early to look after your brain, but it can become too late. Share this episode. It could save someone's life.
Research is all the buzz with weighted blankets right now, perfect for insomniacs with racing minds, sleepers who toss and turn, those who wake up many times at night, and those stressful days or anxiety that keep coming up for you. Check it out at planttrainers.com/hush, HUSH, and use the coupon code PLANTTRAINERS, all one word, all capitals, PLANTTRAINERS at checkout.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful for my son's health and that everything is okay. He slipped and fell the other day and did break his elbow, but he handled it well, and we all handled it well. And although it has put a little bit of a kink in some things, I'm just really grateful that he's okay and really grateful for how we are continuing to stay positive through all of it.
Over the last few months, Russ, our son, and I have gotten back into sports cards, and it's been a lot of fun going through the cards that we have from years ago, and we've been buying new ones and selling old ones, so it's been fun doing that with him, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
Kate Kunkel, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're happy you're here too. Do you have a moment of gratitude to share with us?
I am so grateful that I'm healthy, that I'm here in Ecuador where it's warm and sunny, and that I get a chance to share all of this great stuff with you and your listeners.
That's beautiful and wonderful, and we wish we were in Ecuador too right
wouldn't
now.
That be nice? Some warm weather would be nice right now.
It definitely would. It definitely would. It is cold up here, and we've been eating lots of warm foods. We've been nourishing our body, nourishing our brains, and what we wanted to know from you first is how you found a plant-based lifestyle and what changed for you.
Wow. So I was a vegan originally when I was in my early 30s. So back in 1989, I went completely vegan. No between. I went right from carnivore to vegan. And this was because of PETA, because of animal rights. Unfortunately, I didn't know what I was doing. And I got really, really sick because I didn't understand that broccoli and baked potatoes were not sufficient nutrition. So I did get sick. And my husband at the time very adamantly encouraged me to go back to eating animal products. And over time, I added a few things. But then when I moved here to Ecuador, I was walking along the beach one day, and the fishermen were coming in with this big net full of thousands and thousands of fish. Because the neighbors all come together and bring the nets in together. And then people who help get to take a couple of fish home. That's how they get paid for their help. And the one man was walking by with a fish. He walked past me towards the street, and he took this poor fish and smashed its head on the curb. And that was it. I have not been able to even think about eating any animal products since then. This time, though, I am very aware of the nutritional requirements. I am a vegan nutritionist now. I became one after that because I didn't want to get sick again. It started for me, but it was also for my mind and going through what my mom had been just going through. So that's what set me on the path of 100% vegan again. I was eating a little bit of shrimp and that sort of thing, but after that, no more. And I can't tell you how much better I feel. I'm 63 years old. I feel better than I did at 43. I have more energy. Most of the people I know are much younger than me. I hang out with much younger people, and I have more energy than all of them because I'm very careful about what I put into my body. And I understand nutrition now, which I didn't when I did this when I was younger.
I think that's definitely an important part because we've got people who have come to us to say, I tried going vegan before and I lost my hair. I tried going vegan before and I gained 30 pounds, or I tried going vegan before and I lost 30 pounds and that wasn't good for me either. So it's definitely about understanding what you need to have on a daily basis. And then for some people, some things do need to change as well. And some things are a little bit different too. But you mentioned your mother in there. So can you clarify for us what you were talking about there?
Sure. So my mother was diagnosed with dementia 11 years ago. And that really got me on this whole path of trying to figure out why that happened to her. She never drank. She never smoked. She was a good mom. She did everything she was supposed to do right. And here she was. Now, she got cancer 4 times before she was diagnosed. And so then this happened. The cancer started in the breast, and then it moved to the lymph nodes, and then she had uterine cancer. And the 4th time, which happened just before she was diagnosed with dementia, was vaginal cancer. And the treatment, the allopathic treatment for vaginal cancer, is barbaric. And I believe that in addition to the treatment itself, the radiation, she never did have chemotherapy. She had surgery and she had radiation. Those things, I believe that last time with the brachytherapy, which is a kind of radiation therapy, I think it sent her over the edge. Like now that I know more about dementia, I understand that trauma and fear and all those negative emotions have such a huge impact on the brain long term. And I believe that when that last treatment was given to her, because she seemed to right after that, we started losing her mentally. She was gone. And now that I understand more, I'm convinced that trauma and so forth was what set her on the irrevocable path. But I had to learn that. I didn't know that. And the doctors sure as heck didn't help us with that. But that set me also on a path of, because I sure don't want to go down that road. My sister sure doesn't want to go down that road. So we had to figure out why it would happen to mom and how we could protect ourselves. And then it's just expanded from there. And a vegan lifestyle is a huge part of that.
For the listeners that don't know or want to know more about what dementia is, can you just explain what actual dementia is all about?
Sure. There are many different kinds of dementia. So Alzheimer's is the one that's the most common. That's what most people think of when they think of dementia. But there's also frontotemporal, there's Lewy body dementia. My father, unfortunately, had 3 strokes in rapid succession. That was 3 years ago, and he's starting to show a little bit of cognitive decline because of that. That's to do with blood pressure and blood flow and oxygen. And it depends on the kind of dementia, what the symptoms are and how they start. Generally, we think it's memory loss, but it can be much more than that, or very different from that. In my mom's case, it wasn't really memory loss. It was a change in personality. She became a very aggressive, angry person, which she really wasn't in her normal life. So that was the first stages for her. But many people, it's memory. Others, it's the inability to plan a day. So it becomes overwhelming to even think that you have to go to the doctor or to go get groceries. So those kinds of things, they have different symptoms. But dementia, generally speaking, is a one-way trip. If you don't make the changes you need to try to reverse it. In my mom's case, we figured it out too late, so we couldn't turn back the clock so much, but you can actually turn back the clock in terms of symptoms of dementia, especially frontotemporal, even Alzheimer's. You can even return that if you get it fast enough. But it is a culmination of many things, all these different dementias. Generally speaking, personality changes, fear of being with others because you can't remember or you can't function properly. So you shrink away from people. That's very common with dementia. And of course, forgetfulness and getting lost, those sorts of things. That's what dementia basically is. But it can be for many different reasons.
And the people who you work with who are experiencing different kinds of dementia, do you often find that there has been some kind of traumatic event or deep emotional event? Is that a pattern that you find over and over again?
Sometimes. I work with people, we're trying to prevent it. So I work with like caregivers because they're afraid that they're going to go the way that their charges are. But from talking to so many people who are caregivers, yeah, a lot of it has to do with trauma, but even more has to do with weight. The bigger the circumference of your waist, the smaller your brain. That's a physical fact. It's not a judgment thing. If you have a bigger waist, you have a smaller brain. It's just the way it is. The processed foods, the dangerous fats, all of those things have an impact on our brain. Smoking, people who smoke, they may be perfectly happy. They may even be eating properly. But if they smoke, there's a really good chance to develop dementia of some kind. Toxins in our environment, and it can be something as simple as, it's not simple, mold, black mold causes dementia. It actually interferes with the way your brain functions, and it can destroy parts of the brain. So there are many things, and mental health can be a big part of it. Depression is one of the precursors of dementia. And oftentimes, people who actually have depression are misdiagnosed as having dementia. People who are malnourished, and I don't mean like in the traditional sense where you're skinny and you're starving, but malnourished in terms of nutrients, they can manifest the same symptoms of dementia. And once you turn them around, and this is where I specialize. So people may be coming to me with problems with memory, or they can't focus, or they're feeling their brain is full of fog and smoke. Usually it's got to do with a nutrient deficiency. It's that crazy. B12 deficiency manifests in many people just like dementia. You get the proper nutrients, especially omega-3, D3, and B12, and you can turn them around. It wasn't dementia at all. It was malnourishment.
And that's huge. And that's why it's so important for people to get blood tests and to ask for those blood tests that they might not normally be getting. So many people will come to us and say, how much vitamin D do I need? How much vitamin B12 do I need? But it also depends on what your levels are at already. If you need extra, if you've already got enough. So all of that plays in. I want to go back to that waist and brain for a moment, if I can. Is it that the brain is physically actually smaller, or that it's not functioning at a higher level?
It's physically smaller. You actually lose brain volume.
So as your weight goes up, your brain will then shrink at that time.
Exactly. So, and it's not even so much weight, because some people have more weight, like the pear shape is a little different. It's waist circumference. So that seems to be the defining measure of how this is going to happen or why this happens. I don't understand the mechanisms. I'm not a neurologist, but there are many studies, many things. Dr. Daniel Amen, I'm studying with him right now, and he's got studies showing that. He's got actual brain scans showing reduced volume and actual little like holes in the brain. In the scans, the SPECT scans, it actually looks like holes in the brain. Now, diabetes can do the same thing. It does very much the same thing.
And very often, not always, but very often, the diabetes will go hand in hand with weight as well when it's adult onset. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So what are some of the tools that we can start thinking about in terms of helping people to combat dementia?
I'm all about prevention. And so what you guys are talking about, whole foods, plant-based nutrition is essential. I know that some people, including Dr. Amen, he talks about using fish. I don't agree because, firstly, the mercury and, of course, the animal thing for me, but also some promote the idea of grass-fed beef and butter and stuff. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I believe that we can do just fine without that second step of the nutrient coming in. B12, people say, well, you have to eat meat to get it, but no, you don't. And in fact, many of the animals have to have supplements now because there are no nutrients in the soil. So somebody's going to be supplemented, whether it's you or the animals, better you. Anyway, so nutrition, whole foods, plant-based diet. Alcohol is not good for your brain. It actually steals nutrients from your brain. It impairs your judgment. So if you think about it, if you drink a lot of alcohol, your judgment is not good. So your food choices, your exercise choices, it also changes your sleep patterns. Alcohol, especially if people have it before they go to bed, they think it helps them go to sleep, but it's exactly the opposite. Yeah, it helps you go to sleep, but 3 hours later when the sugar wears off, then you wake up. And all of that benefit is gone. Smoking, of course, I mentioned, and many prescription drugs have a huge impact on your brain. Interactions between drugs can manifest as a kind of dementia. I love that Dr. Amen, even though he's a psychiatrist and he prescribes some medications, obviously some mental health issues, that's really what you need. But he also tries with natural supplements because our bodies were meant to run on what nature gave us. So if we can tap into those, then our brains are going to be healthier. Our mental health is going to be better. Sleep is vitally important for a healthy brain. To prevent dementia, you can do all those other good things, but if you're trying to get by on 4 hours of sleep a night, it's going to manifest in problems. And if you let those problems continue, you will start manifesting symptoms of dementia. Toxins. We try to avoid toxins in our shampoos, even don't use aluminum foil. We're not 100% sure, but there are enough studies that have convinced me that I don't use aluminum foil because of the studies that I've read on how it can leach. Plastic food containers. No, because it can leach. Even though they say it's BPA free, that doesn't mean anything. Artificial scents, like people have those plug-in things in their homes. Yikes. If anybody's watching this right now, just unplug. Just don't do that anymore. It's because it's phthalates, it's artificial scents, it's just so many things that are not good for you. So toxicity is a huge thing.
I just wanted to pop in here to say that sleep is everything. And if you've heard about weighted blankets lately, you know what they can do. If you're someone with a lot of stress, if you're someone who's not sleeping throughout the night, if you're someone who needs to perform better throughout the day, check it out because Hush blankets are reducing stress, lowering cortisol, increasing happiness. They are a tactile bliss. The blankets are covered with a super soft minky thread, which our son loves and refuses to go to sleep without at night. The inner blanket is made from a super comfortable microfiber material, and that means that you could sleep directly under it. So if you're someone who's too lazy to do laundry, don't worry because they've got you covered. Check out planttrainers.com/hush, that's HUSH, and use the coupon code, all capitals, plant trainers, one word, PLANTTRAINERS at checkout for an amazing Plant Trainers discount. And now back to the show.
And probably number 2 is exercise. We need exercise for so many things. I see your shirt says training for life, and that's the ticket, man. We have to move. Our bodies were meant to move. This whole sedentary lifestyle is not natural. We need to move. It's as important for us as diet.
And what about if we talk about mindfulness and meditation? Where does that fit in?
Yeah. I actually have a program that I'm running right now. It's called Tune Up Your Brain. And it's a part of what I espouse in the book is that we are holistic beings. We are mind, body, and spirit. So the mind, you need to continually learn and be mindful. As you go about your day-to-day life, if you're just doing it on automatic, you're not engaging your mind, you're not using it in a healthy way. So mindfulness is hugely important, and continual learning. A spiritual practice, and that doesn't mean religion, it means a spiritual life that includes meditation. And meditation actually increases the size of your brain. Did you know that lifelong meditators actually have bigger brains? It's like lifelong musicians also have bigger brains. So those things are very important. Yes, I'm glad you asked that question because it is vitally important.
So you mentioned lifelong musicians. So is music part of mindfulness? Is music something that sits on its own? We always talk about, how music feeds the soul. Talk to us a little bit how music, and if music can affect and help prevent dementia.
So there are a whole bunch of things going on there. I'll try to break them down in little bits. Firstly, music does soothe the soul. There's no question it is good on a spiritual soul level. That's just to keep us feeling calm, peaceful, connected to each other, because music is a huge connector between people, which is also vitally important. The social interaction, being with humans, we're social animals. So music is a great bridge for that. It brings people together. Even if you're just watching a concert, the energy that comes, not just from the music, but from the interaction is hugely important, and that's good for our souls. But for our brains, lifelong musicians actually have a thicker corpus callosum, which is the strip of tissue that runs between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. It is stronger and it is thicker in musicians. They don't have to be professional musicians, but lifelong musicians. And it actually doesn't have to be that you start when you're 4. It doesn't really matter when you start. You can strengthen the corpus callosum and build that bridge between right and left hemisphere. Also, when you are learning music as a musician, you are actually using both sides of the brain. So that's partly why the corpus callosum is thicker, but it's also why we have more brain reserve. Cognitive reserve is what we call it. So if, say, a musician and a non-musician are both exposed to some external factor that could contribute to dementia, so like a toxin, the person who does not have that extra cognitive reserve doesn't have as many connections between A and B. So the neurons aren't firing on as many cylinders, so to speak, to try and simplify it. So this person might have 2 connections, just say 2 connections between neurons, just to make it really simple. But because a musician has been learning and has been firing up both sides of the brain all his or her life, or for much of it, there are 10 connections. So if this external factor, this toxin, comes and wipes out one of the connections for this person, that's a problem. They're running on half energy. But if it wipes out one of the connections on this person, it's not a big deal. They've got 9 more. So they've got what's called cognitive reserve, and that happens for everything. That cognitive reserve also comes when you continually learn over the course of your life. You don't have to be a musician. You can learn another language. You can learn knitting. You can learn anything that is different for you. So that means it has to be a lifelong thing. You have to keep learning new things because that's where it creates the cognitive reserve. So that's another thing that music does. The other thing is on just a pure emotional, mental state. Music is a calming influence, but it can also be an inspiring influence that makes us want to do more and learn more and be with people more. So that the emotional part of music inspires us. It makes us have a more positive mindset, which is important for a healthy brain, but it also inspires us to be more of what we can be. And that's important for the brain.
It's like when you have that song with your husband or your partner or your best friend, that song that brings you together. It's about the social interaction more than it probably is about the actual music itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Singing does it. Dancing. Oh my gosh. Dancing is like one of the best things you can do for your brain. It's incorporating music. It's incorporating exercise, and it's incorporating being with other people. Dance.
And you're probably learning, if you're learning new dance, then you're making those connections as well.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
It's important to keep your mind stimulated, ongoing. is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, as long as you're learning something new. So if it's not music and music isn't of interest to you, or you never learned how to play an instrument as a child, that's okay. We could think back of, did you learn martial arts? Were you a fine artist? Do you like watching summits, right? So continuous learning. Does a big brain always equate to a healthier brain?
No, definitely not. I wish I could say that were true, but there are lots of things that can cause a big brain to be unhealthy. Things like trauma, physical trauma, things like drug overdoses, things like just so many things can happen to hurt the brain. Alcohol, toxins, so many things. Trauma is a big one. As I mentioned, I'm studying with Dr. Amen, and he does a lot of work with football players. And you can see, these guys, their brains are the regular size, but because they've been hit multiple times, they have serious problems with the brain. And you can actually see where the blood isn't flowing properly with the SPECT scans. You can see where it looks like dents in the brain. So yeah, just because it's a normal size does not mean it's healthy.
But then having those other experiences in life that give you more of those connectors, it gives you more lives. It's like giving the cat more than 9 lives kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It does give your brain more capacity to overcome things, including injuries. Absolutely. Because think of it like lots of people who have strokes, they are able to recuperate relatively well. Part of that is because of the quick intervention, but also because they have cognitive reserve. So a healthy part of the brain can take over some of the function of the part of the brain that's been damaged by a stroke. So yes, absolutely. By having that cognitive reserve, you can overcome a lot of problems, but drinking and smoking and eating really bad food, the SAD diet, those things, you can only overcome so much with cognitive reserve.
Is dementia something that we only see in older people?
Unfortunately, no. It's actually becoming one of those things that is manifesting earlier, which is kind of frightening. I don't remember anybody having dementia at my age when I was a kid, in their 60s. It all seemed like to be the really old people, the 75 and 80. But now we're seeing many more cases. I feel, and this is my personal opinion based on the research that I've done, is that it's due to diet and toxins. I truly believe that the plastic pollution and that is a big part of it, and air pollution and water. But I believe that the use of phthalates and other things are just contributing to this. And that's why we're seeing it younger and younger, because we've heard about the genetic component, say in Alzheimer's, and there actually is a gene, APOE4, it's a mutation that seems to have some connection to Alzheimer's. But there are many, many people who have that gene and don't get Alzheimer's. And there are many, many more who do have the gene and don't get Alzheimer's. Or anyway, the other way around. Have the gene, no Alzheimer's. Don't have the gene, have Alzheimer's. So that tells you something right there, that it's got to be environmental. And I really think that's why we're seeing 52-year-olds getting dementia. And I belong to a social media group called Cora. Have you heard of it? Anyway, I'm considered one of the dementia experts on there. And I get so many young people, like 30, 35, asking me, what's going on? Why am I having such a problem with my memory? And so it may not be full-blown dementia, it's just cognitive decline, but that can easily turn into dementia. So unfortunately, the answer to your question is no, it's not just for old people.
Bottom line, what we once thought was an older person's illness is no longer, and it's now affecting so many people at younger ages. And so while you focus on prevention, what could you tell our listeners that they should be doing right now if they wanted to start working on themselves so that they could avoid getting to those later stages or to dementia at all? What should they be doing right now instead of waiting until it happens?
Very good point. Thank you. Thank you for asking that. Firstly, clean up their diet. Even if you can't go whole foods plant-based, get rid of the sugar, because diabetes and obesity are huge contributors to early onset dementia. So cleaning up the diet, number one, getting better sleep. I know when you're younger, it's really tempting, I can go all night, I can do all this stuff, but you really need good sleep, and not just the quantity, but the quality. So that means you need to go through all the stages of sleep. So if you're having trouble, get tested. If you have sleep apnea, there are all kinds of things you can do, is that CPAP machine and those sorts of things to help you sleep better, because you need the oxygen. Exercise. Those are the top 3 things that I would say. If people are really wanting to take the steps right now, those are the 3 best things they can do.
I wanted to know, what are some of the signs that people need to look for in their 40s and 50s to maybe those people who need that extra boost to say, I'm in trouble. I should really take a turn in my lifestyle now. What do they need to look for?
So if they're having trouble scheduling, if they're having trouble with keeping appointments and stuff, a lot of people say, I can multitask, but multitasking it's not really possible. So that's one thing. If they're having trouble with their schedule and they find themselves getting lost in time, people attribute that to stress and having too much going on, but that's a danger sign. So to pay attention to that. Why am I having that trouble? The other thing is, if you get lost easily where you didn't before, you think that that's just, again, a diversion thing, but it can be a symptom that cognitive decline is happening. Memory issues, of course, that's pretty standard, but brain fog. If you feel like, I just can't, I'm tired and I can't get through that, and I feel like I'm wading through syrup, that's also a symptom that you should be looking after your brain now. The sooner, the better.
It's really important for people to be focused on taking better care of themselves at younger ages, because we do see the impact of all these negative experiences and illnesses and diseases attacking so many people earlier in life. And so the work you're doing is so important, and you're helping so many people. I'm sure our listeners that want to learn more from you or want to reach out or have questions, where would you like them to go to connect with you?
Facebook is a great place. I even have a group called Prevent Dementia and Alzheimer's, and I welcome people who are interested in learning about diet and exercise. We do that on Facebook. So Prevent Dementia and Alzheimer's. And then also my website is katekunkel.com. I have a very comprehensive blog, and I put all kinds of tips and tools that you can use there to look after your brain. And a lot of it is fun, right? Like learning music, like dancing, because you're not going to stick with something if you're not having fun, right? If it's just a job, if it's just work, you're not going to stick to it. Nobody does. So have fun. Consider cooking good stuff and adventure. Have fun together doing it. Going shopping at farmers markets when it's warm enough to go shopping at farmers markets. But have fun doing with this and make it part of your life. Just enjoy it. So that's what the blog, I like to do that in the blog, to encourage people to have fun.
And just for fun, can you tell us a little bit about, if somebody were to come down to Ecuador and visit you, what they might experience in a day in terms of what's around and what kind of food you would serve and things like that?
Well, unless they come on a retreat, I don't serve food, but I love to take people exploring. So we go to the mercado. I live in an area called Salinas La Libertad, and we have the biggest mercado. It's like 20 square blocks, and it's all fresh fruits and vegetables. And we go down there, and I always take my guests there so we can go and explore the sights and the sounds and the smells of the mercado. And then lots of times we'll come back and make a meal together. So that's a lot of fun. But we also have the beach, of course. It's more like a surfing beach. It's not a really calm, like a Caribbean beach. It's not like that. It's the Pacific. We're right on the West Coast. Nearest thing to us, I think, is Bali. So it's quite a ways. There's not too much stopping the waves. But we have lots of great places, colorful places. Montanita is north of us. It's a surf town. But where we are right here in Punta Carnero, which is a little area that I live in our property, it's called Casas Pacific Coast, and we have a pool and all of those cool things, but you get to live in your own little house. And we have a fully stocked kitchen. So when we go to the mercado, you can come back and experiment and have lots of fun with good food. And there are 3 kilometers of beach that you can walk up and down or run up and down. And it's really a very peaceful place with fresh air and lots of negative ions from the ocean.
Amazing.
Sounds awesome. We're going to have to come visit.
We will link to everything that you talked about earlier in the show notes at planttrainers.com. Kate, we are so grateful for your time today, for your expertise, for your energy, and I hope everybody out there takes at least one actionable step today to have a better brain and reduce chances of dementia.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys are great, have great questions. Thank you so much for the chance.
Thank you, Kate.
To talk.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us, just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time
And
have a healthy day.
day.
Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.